Found you. Su Wei's smiled cruelly. No, I don't want to. Su Mianmian shouted loudly. Su Wei's wasn't about to give her another chance to escape. He stepped forward, grabbed her arm tightly, and said angrily. How dare you throw a tantrum at me? Come here. Fei Fei is waiting for your blood. She looked up at Su Wei's and said angrily. No, I won't go. Uncle, you promised to come and save me. Let me go. Su Mianmian backed away in fear. Su Mianmian gripped the door frame tightly. Come here. Su Wei's tugged twice but couldn't budge Su Mianmian. He turned around and saw that Su Mianmian was gripping the door frame. I haven't even counted to 100 yet. This time, I absolutely will not compromise. Calm down. He didn't expect Su Mianmian to resist, and he was so angry he was about to explode. Su Wei's tied Su Mianmian's arm. It hurt a bit, but it was better than getting hit in the head. Let me go. It's difficult to draw blood if she's moving around like that. Tie it up with a rope. Now that he saw her defy him, he was so angry that he was about to burst into flames, completely disregarding that they were in a public place. Oh. Su Wei's tied Su Mianmian's arm. It hurt a bit, but it was better than getting hit in the head. When Su Mianmian saw Su Wei's tying her hands and feet, she made the worst-case scenario plan in her mind. At worst, she would be beaten to death by him. Anyway, her life has been quite tragic. Her mother doesn't want her anymore. She had no presence at home and was dragged by Su Wei's to deliver blood to Su Feifei every month. Smoke it quickly. Yes. It's better to be beaten to death by him than to die on the blood-drawing table. Besides, there's nothing wrong with dying, at least I can see my mother again. However, she promised Dong Dong she would bake him a cake, but perhaps she won't be able to keep that promise. Will Dong Dong blame her? And also, Uncle. 99. 100. Su Mianmian closed her eyes in despair. Just hang in there a little longer, the uncle is coming. Uncle, help me. Just as Su Wei's and the nurse were about to take Su Mianmian's blood, they heard the sound of the door being kicked open and Hua Ting arrived. Su Wei's was startled when he heard the voice. He turned around and saw that it was Hua Ting. The uncle has finally arrived. The black-clad bodyguards behind Hua Ting were stunned by what they saw. The scene was extremely miserable. Seeing Su Mianmian tied up, Hua Ting felt an urge to kill Su Wei's. Although Su Wei's was still not quite sure why Hua Ting had suddenly come here, his behavior after arriving did not seem like he didn't care about Su Mianmian at all. He thought that Hua Ting's marriage to Su Mianmian was just a passing fancy, but now it seems that's not the case. Su Wei's face turned pale, and he quickly said, Young Master Hua, what brings you here? He walked over with a gloomy expression, reached out and strangled Su Wei's neck. Hua Ting gave him a cold look and said, Shut up. Su Wei's smile vanished. Su Wei's was thrown and his buttocks hit the floor with a loud thud. Even though he had never experienced Hua Ting's methods firsthand, he had heard of them quite a bit, and he dared not accept Hua Ting's punishment. Su Wei's face turned pale. If he could, he really wanted to faint right away. Two bodyguards in black approached and stood on either side of him. The bodyguard captain irritably ran his fingers through his hair, then quickly took off his sock in front of everyone, stuffed it into Su Wei's mouth, and sealed it with tape. This speed is like lightning, but it's really brutal. After being harassed like this, Su Wei's, perhaps due to the smell of the socks, tilted his head to the side and fainted. I'm sorry. I was forced into this, let me go. Where are you taking me? He walked over with a gloomy expression, reached out and untied Su Mianmian's clothes. I'm sorry I'm late. Despite his cold tone, Su Mianmian could hear the concern in his voice. Su Mianmian immediately got up and reached out to hug his neck. Hua Ting bent slightly because of the sudden hug from his little wife. Uncle! No one had ever treated her like this before. The fear she had just experienced with Su Wei's was now a thing of the past. She leaned against Hua Ting's chest and cried with relief. I was so scared just now. For some reason, she suddenly felt a strong sense of security. It seemed that as long as the older man came, she would no longer be harmed. I thought I would die. Hua Ting looked at Su Mianmian, who looked like she was about to be abandoned, her ears drooping, and she looked particularly pitiful. Don't be afraid, I'm here. I will protect you. Hua Ting whispered in her ear. Uncle! Thank you for coming to save me. I told you don't need to thank me. Because you are my wife. Sure enough, my little lamb is so dependent on me. Look, she gets so scared if I ignore her for even a moment. She really can't live without me. After a while, Su Mianmian's muffled voice came from his chest. Uncle, you looked especially handsome just now. Hua Ting looked at Su Mianmian, who was leaning against his chest, looking particularly soft and vulnerable. He felt a tickle in his heart and just wanted to pull her into his chest and then firmly establish some rules for her. Let's see if she dares to disobey him again next time. Don't think that just because you say some sweet words I won't hold it against you. Su Mianmian was slightly taken aback, not understanding why the atmosphere had suddenly changed so much. She complimented him on his good looks, shouldn't he be very happy? It was so hard for her to say it. What accounts? She asked, puzzled. Hua Ting said in a very macho manner. You went out with another man without asking me first, putting yourself in danger, that's your biggest mistake. Su Mianmian was stunned for a moment, and then said. How can you blame me? It seems I've been too lenient with you. Tonight. I'm going to give you a good lesson. Hua Ting said seriously. How naive. The rules still need to be properly established. His eyes, though cold, revealed a different kind of emotion. Su Mianmian had been set rules so many times, if she still couldn't understand, she'd be a fool. Her face flushed. As soon as the two returned to the Hua family home, Dong Dong rushed towards Su Mianmian and the others. Dong Dong jumped up and ran to Su Mianmian. Mimi! Why are you back so early? Hua Ting asked coldly. At this time, the kindergarten should still be in session. Daddy, today is our principal's wife's birthday, so the whole school is closed for half a day. What a strange reason. He was sure Dong Dong was lying about that. Hua Ting frowned and said. Mimi needs to rest, don't disturb her. Dong Dong turned her head to look at Su Mianmian, and said. Not feeling well? Then I'll take care of Mimi. Hua Ting gently placed Su Mianmian on the bed and somewhat awkwardly covered her with the blanket, noticing her tired face. He coldly commanded. Now, don't think about anything, close your eyes and go to sleep. Su Mianmian nodded, she also felt a little tired. After seeing Su Mianmian fall asleep, Hua Ting glanced at Dong Dong, who was blinking his round eyes and watching them. He resisted the urge to spank him and angrily asked. Why did you fall asleep? Dong Dong blinked, and realizing that Hua Ting was genuinely angry, he figured there was a good chance he'd get a spanking. So he immediately flashed a fawning smile and said shyly. Daddy, go ahead and do what you need to do. I promise I'll be good and won't disturb Mimi. Hua Ting remained silent for a while, and after looking at Dong Dong's sensible eyes, he nodded. Whatever you want. With a frighteningly sinister aura on his face, Hua Ting arrived at the place where they had asked Su Wei's to rest properly. Young Master Hua! I really didn't mean it, please let me go! Su Wei's pleaded loudly. After all this, if he still can't see that young Master Hua has taken a liking to Su Mianmian, he'd be a fool. Su Wei's let out a loud arg sound as his hand was stabbed through the ground. This man doesn't treat his wife like a daughter at all, does he? How could he force his daughter like that? If it weren't for the fact that the father and daughter look alike, he would have doubted that his wife was his biological daughter. Hua Ting thrust the sword into his right hand and said. Since you have no intention of doing this, then I won't make things difficult for you. I only want this hand of yours. Hua Ting said cruelly. Su Wei's turned pale at his words. Young Master Hua, spare my life! When Hua Ting returned home, he found that Su Mianmian and Dong Dong were both sleeping very soundly, and Dong Dong even had suspicious drool left on his body. He moved Dong Dong around with a look of disgust, turning his face to face the wall. He placed his hand on Su Mianmian's cheek, stroked it, and stared at her intently. Hua Ting lowered his head and kissed her forcefully, his tongue pressing against her lips, licking them with a punishing intent. Su Mianmian opened her eyes in a daze after feeling his burning gaze and kiss. Su Mianmian blinked, looking completely bewildered. But she still obediently accepted the old man's gentleness. Seeing her obedient appearance, looking quite pitiful, Hua Ting coldly snorted and said arrogantly. Some things I'll only say once, you're mine. Everything you have is mine, including your body. You must never get hurt again. Hua Ting said coldly. Although his tone was cold, his caresses were gentle. Su Mianmian blushed and said somewhat speechlessly. I promise you. Can't take my eyes off. Someone suddenly whispered. When the atmosphere was just right, and immediately the atmosphere was ruined. Hey, you guys keep going, don't worry about me. Dong Dong said, unable to bear it any longer. Upon hearing Dong Dong's voice, the two turned around to look at him. They saw that he had woken up at some point and was looking at them with particularly excited eyes. Su Mianmian turned her face away and screamed in embarrassment. Hua Ting was very angry, feeling that it was a serious mistake not to take Dong Dong out immediately.